Hello everybody and welcome to the latest interview. I have with us here Matt Jones.
Hello.
Are you Matt or Matthew?
Either or.
Either or, but not a terrier.
Not one of those.
Not one of those. And I wanted to discuss really about Nanolex, because the big news is Matt is now running Nanolex in the UK. So your role, as far as I can make it, is to support the accredited guys.
Yes.
It is to encourage resellers, big and small, to get involved with the Nanolex brand.
It is.
And to increase public awareness and brand awareness of the Nanolex
Spreading the Nanolex love, for sure.
Spreading Nanolex love.
Yep.
Well, as you noticed, we are behind a VW Golf, which we have been, well, I say well, you've been doing a bit, but we've been mostly watching other people. Bob Turner of Head Turners Detailing and Ben of Extreme Auto Clean have been here going over the car, preparing up some coatings.
Two of our accredited guys, yeah.
Indeed. And what we were going to talk about are some of the new products that come to Nanolex. So here you've got some new, not even just replacements for old products, but whole new genres of products.
Yes, yeah. Everything Nanolex does is manufactured for an exact reason and that purpose. So every product that comes into the range is designed to do a specific job, and that's exactly what we have.
That's handy, isn't it, to have an idea of what the product's going to do when you bring it into the
Well, it is. You can get products that do multi things, but Nanolex concentrate on a product doing one specific thing, and
Gotcha.
it is the master, not the jack of all trades.
I see what you mean. Okay, well, fair point. So we'll go into some of the new Nanolex products soon. As you can also tell us that we're sitting on some quite cool chairs. I'm not allowed to take the plastic off this one because apparently I'm a bit dirty. But you've got one there, and this is, as I say, a somewhat secret location, but we are just outside Bedford, would be a fair place. We're not giving anything away there.
No, it's fine, yeah.
So kind of close to civilization, people speak normally, that sort of thing. And lovely big dual carriageways as well, I've been enjoying those.
I'm glad you like those. Very good.
So, let's learn a little bit about you, because yes. I know a lot of people on the social networks would have heard the name or seen you comment on stuff like that. What's your background? You're, what, 30,
44.
44.
Charming gets you everywhere, doesn't it? Flattering. Yes, I've been in the industry a long time. It's great to be on social media and learn more from other people. And my background was coming from an era where everyone worked in dealerships, in contract work, obviously some officially contract, some not. But it was high volume, low pay, which is another story how the trade has evolved. It's very similar to it was when I first started. But I ran quite a few dealerships, ran contracts with them, and my experience was there. And then I went into corporate side. A lot of companies, company directors tend to have nice cars, and the nice cars then push you into the detailing side. Along those lines, I then got involved with Malco and Presta, and then onto Nanolex afterwards. And here I am since 1992, still involved in making cars shine.
That's a long time. I mean, I was only 7 years old when you started touching cars.
Yeah, well, the first car I touched actually was probably a lot earlier, in the late 70s, which was my mum and dad's Vauxhall Chevette with chrome bumpers.
Oh,
and the chrome bumpers got me into that kind of OCD streak that all the car people have.
It's true, yeah, you do. You kind of, it's like an infection, isn't it?
Yeah, you just to see something turn from looking dirty into something looking nice, and that's, as I've mentioned before, vans. I still love doing vans.
You are the van man, yeah.
You appreciate, I wouldn't say that, but once in a while, but the appreciation of turning something that's looking tired into something looking good.
It's satisfying, isn't
exactly, which is why we have this 19-year-old, what are we, 2002, so it's 17-year-old Golf behind us. The whole point of this project was
rejuvenation, really.
Yes, yeah, to show what you can achieve, that anyone can achieve with just using some simple tasks.
No, that's brilliant. And you said your parents' first car was a Vauxhall, but I believe you're a Ford man.
Yeah, well, I don't really think I'm going to upset some Vauxhall Chevette people here. I'm sure, but
I don't think they have internet yet.
Yes, possibly. Yeah, there were some nice ones, but Fords ruled the roost in those days for sure for your rally cars. But yeah, I went from the Vauxhall Chevettes with lots of ridicule from friends to appreciating the Fords. Your RS 2000s, like I said, Fiesta Super Sport, which went to the XR2, RS Turbo. All those eras, probably the most stolen cars on the road at their time.
True, yeah.
And the soft spot is still there for the classic Fords, for sure.
No, I have to admit, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Subaru fan because Subarus are better than everything. But the quiver of the lip. But I do very much appreciate a fast Ford, and indeed a fast Vauxhall, as to be said. I like a Carlton Lotus. Oh, Lotus Carlton. But anyway, so 1992, started fluffing cars.
Yes.
You had a time with Malco and Presta, which is an American company.
Yes.
And that's actually when we first got in touch, probably about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah, classic classic car show, yeah.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And I think you approached me from behind, I think, and I was sort of thinking, oh God, here we go, this is what happens at the classic car show, and then you started talking about Malco Presto, and I thought, oh, and these are quite interesting products, and they were interesting, weren't they? And
oh, absolutely, yes, a good product for sure. And I enjoyed my time with it. It was actually a product which I used in the UK, which no one really knew of at all, and I really liked it. And that's when you discover something that you like, as with Nanolex, and you appreciate what it does. I mean, you know yourself, there's so many products in the market, you can't try every single one. So, you know, when you do try one and you're disappointed, you generally stop for a while, but then once you find something, you just keep trying something else from the brand and you like it. It may not be everyone's taste, but so you get full appreciation of that product and what it can do for what you need specifically as well. I
think there's quite a lot in common, strange enough, between Malco and Nanolex, even though the brands are totally different and all the rest of it. But from a UK consumer point of view, both are foreign, Nanolex is German and Malco being American, and both, I think, they're not as well known as they deserve to be for the quality of the product, if you see what I mean.
100%, yes. Yeah.
And so you've proven with Malco, because you took Malco from, we'd never heard about it, and I mean, I've been in the car care world a little while too, and I hadn't heard of them, to be honest. And you took them to a point where you mentioned them in a normal conversation, and nobody kind of puts their hands up and says, oh, what's that? And I'm hoping, I mean, Nanolex is, you know, further along. Nanolex is well known, but it's not at the same level as, say, big companies like G-Technic and the big, you know, other coatings firms. And
they're underperforming for sure, and they should be higher up than where they are. Yes, for the quality of the products that they are, then they definitely have. The UK is definitely a market where they should be punching above where they are for now, for sure, and that's exactly why I'm here.
So if we meet again in a couple of years and they aren't there, then it's kind of P45 situation.
Then I've failed. Yes, yes. My house is up for sale.
Which one?
Well, yeah.
So Nanolex range. Now you were telling me about, is it called Optimizer?
Optimizer, yes.
Tell me about Optimizer.
Yes, as I mentioned, the products they have is just a beautiful product here, as we see. It's when I mentioned before as what Nanolex do, it's kind of similar like the wax. They produced a wax which is primarily for the use on cars that have been ceramic coated.
Really stiff.
I don't want to hear about those kind of things, but yes, Optimizer can be used with any coating whatsoever. So it basically is a thinning agent. So once the application goes on, you can use it as a safety net. If you're not sure if the coating's completely disappeared, or you might have missed a bit, you can just dust a microfiber off and wipe it over. You're not removing any strength of the actual coating you put on there, and it ensures that you've taken every last bit off there. It's a lubricator as well.
It smells like a kind of carrier agent almost.
It's got ingredients that are actually in ceramic coatings as well, which is why it will not make anything any weaker. It's not dissolving any durability on the actual product itself.
High spots and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you can always miss something in some kind of light. So it's not something you have to use, but it's almost like using a rotary, and then you think, well, that's okay, but I know if I put a DA across it afterwards, I know there'll be no buffer trails there afterwards because the DA will do that job. So that's what it does, but it also opens up the coatings to the enthusiast. So perhaps when applications might be difficult or they get something wrong, they can use that and they should not get any issues at all.
So one thing we are going to do later today, and we're going to shoot it, is, as in film it, is a kind of a quick guide to ceramic coatings. Now, there might be a lot of professional detailers going, oh God, why are you showing normal people, as in normal people, how to use coatings? Because we already have enough problems with people who buy a bottle of coating and they're not detailers, and they slap it all over their car and they think, oh, it's like herbal essences and stuff, and they just squirt it all over. Yeah. And then we get a phone call, or the detailers get a phone call saying, my car's, it's a bit odd really. Could you fix, I mean, it'll only take half an hour of your time, could you just come up, you know, and the amount of cocked up coatings is
and it's more expensive in the long run as well.
It is. So what I'm quite keen to do is not encourage lots of home users, unless you're really competent, to start doing coatings, because it's going to be awful. But if you insist on doing a coating, let's at least show you how to do it properly, so that it reduces the chance of things going wrong. And that's the nice thing about this product, is that if things do start to go a little bit Pete-Tong, hopefully you can recover the situation with that. As long as you kind of get in there early. I'm guessing if your coating is kind of 3 days old and you've got problems with it, this is...
No, it's basically when you do the wipe down process. If you're wiping the coating off the vehicle in the first place, regardless of what brand it is, you can spray it on there, and rather than actually just using the dry cloth, you just like spritz on it and wipe it over, and that's...
So it's almost like a kind of a quick detailer effect for coating.
It kind of is, yes.
Yeah.
And no one else has it either. As far as I know, at this moment in time,
Yep.
Another
At this
brand...
moment in time, which is the 2:15 on the 18th of a month.
Well, if we say this now, that another brand that we know, right?
Yeah, then
it might be released very, very quickly.
Documentary proof, that's what it is. But I agree. This, as far as I'm aware as well, and I spend my life just with my nose in kind of the internet, mostly looking at car products and Subarus. So,
it's a great life.
Yeah.
Definitely a great.
So we're looking forward to this. And you've got some little tins. Now, the hybrid wax, can I talk about this?
You can talk about it, yes.
Marvellous. We featured this in the magazine over a year ago, and a couple of people used it within the Nanolex network in those days, and they were raving about it, and I couldn't get my hands on it. I couldn't find where you were to buy it, and I was sitting there thinking, you brought out this cool looking sounding wax that some people like, but we can't get hold of it. And in fact, I was up with a Nanolex Approved chappie about 2 years ago now with my S8 when it was working, and he put a prototype of this on the car, and it did last for a genuine 6 months. And my cars get abused. I don't have the time in life to actually look after them properly. I'm just driving everywhere, and they usually rust before they get dirty, so it's fine. But this hybrid wax, tell me about this hybrid wax.
Well, the hybrid wax, I think the one thing with waxing is you can get into the argument of if you ceramic coat your car, then you never need to wax it again. And there is an argument for that, but I don't think there's possibly anything when you're waxing a car that comes close to that therapeutic kind of nice gliding and putting it on and feel like you're doing something. Everyone loves waxing a car at some point. So this was manufactured exactly for the purpose of going onto a coated car. So no other reason other than that. You can use it as a standalone product, but Nanolex came from being a ceramic coating car. They were a coating firm.
It became a backward step. Most companies that started with waxes have started getting into coatings.
Yeah.
And I think, to knowledge, this is the only hard-paste wax I've come across that is specifically for...
I think there is one more.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't tried it. I'm not mentioning it.
That's unfair. You've got to tell me what it is.
No, because I'm not for certain. I've been told it is, so I can't categorically. That's what it's for. I don't think it's marketed as that, but I've been told by another professional it does. But I think actually being as promoted as this is what it does, that is the only one that I certainly know of. But yeah, I mean, you've come from... We're saying that every product is there made for a reason. Yeah. And Florian, as you spoke to before, started to make coatings.
Florian Kessler, you can see, he's the MD, CEO of Nanolex over in Germany. Yes. We've done a couple of long interviews with him. Great sense of humour.
Yes, worth watching. Sure. Definitely watch it. Very educational. You can learn a lot from them. But that was the idea behind. Like I said, every single one is made for a reason. And they had the coatings first, so people saying we want a wax. So we said, okay, well we'll make you a wax.
And just the inner cynic in me is saying a wax is a wax, and this smells like a wax, and it looks like a wax. So what is different? And I'll just show the camera this one. It's wax. How? And we were talking about this actually. There was some other chap that we were talking about saying, he just insisted the products were the best in the world without explaining why. How does this differ from a conventional wax?
Well, it's all about bonding. If you've got a ceramic coating, it's going to repel everything that
sort of bonding. Yep.
Yeah. So because the whole point of putting a wax on a lot of the time is as much as for protection, it's for shine.
Yes.
So this wax will go onto a coating and sit there nicely on there and still give you protection with doing something. Whilst you can still put a wax on there and be super shiny, but this actually has the ability to bond on the top of the ceramic coating.
Which I think is important, and that's the one thing actually with a lot of coating cars. People want a ceramic coating because it's cool and sexy, but then I talk to them and say, well, I quite like to decon and wash my car every other week and then put a wax on it and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, why are you bothering getting a coating? Coating is for people quite often who don't necessarily care so much about the car. It's a lease car or whatever. They'll have it for 3 years, they coat it, they know it's going to be easy to clean, and they carry on with life. They're not the sort of people who would spend long romantic evenings in a shed with their car talking to it.
Like you do in your Subarus. Occasionally.
They're only rumours. So, anyway, that's interesting. And how much is that?
You've got me on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's money. I think in my head it was around 50 quid.
Yeah, I'd say about £45.
45, 50 quid.
If you ask me nice, we might even give a giveaway on that as well.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, no,
we might.
I'll have to take
if you're nice to me.
I'll be gentle.
Yes.
He says, warming his hands. And Optimizer, this is quite a big bottle. This is a 750ml, is it, or a litre?
Yeah, this should just come out, so don't ask me the price on that exactly,
right.
although I do have the pricing. Yeah, you need very little of it. It's not
That's normally a precursor to saying it's terribly expensive. When people say,
No, it's not expensive. It's actually down the scale of prices, but this only arrived 2 days ago. So I have my packing list, but I actually have no prices list yet.
Gotcha. Okay, but it's not going to be ruinous, and it could potentially be a lifesaver for both professional and amateurs.
I think yes. I mean, you mentioned earlier on about putting coatings on, and trust me, I get lots of messages through Facebook Messenger from the Nanolex site asking me how to do this all the time. And it does get a bit painful sometimes because you want to say to them that go and speak to a pro or get the pro to do it. But I completely understand why people want to do it, and now we're given the ability to do so. But the key obviously is the prep and everything else that any professional for PVD would tell you, this is the key, and the maintenance afterwards. But this is something for sure that's going to help the enthusiast more than a pro for sure.
Gotcha.
But it's across the board.
Indeed. And the one bottles that I will not open to sniff, because it'll more or less invalidate the bottle on the whole, are these various ceramic coatings we've got here. So, should we start with SI Shield, or would you prefer me to take it the other way around?
Yes, if you do SI Shield, yes. Yeah.
So, SI Shield, I believe we talked to Florian about this briefly, but refresh my memory.
Well, this is the entry-level ceramic.
Okay, so you don't need to be accredited for this?
No accreditation. All these are non-accredited, which I can come to in a second.
Yeah.
This is the easiest one to apply. I mean, they're all easy, but this is the easiest one. So, as you may recall, it's that Nanolex don't actually give a lifespan because they're tested scientifically.
Usage,
it's so difficult to put a lifespan on how that vehicle's going to be looked after.
It's like humans. If you work hard manual labour down the pit all your life, you're not going to make it till 80. But if you sit in a library, you might.
They're like yourself. So I'm going to die early. But yes, this is something which you've
got a head start, to be fair.
It's you lost my train of thought now. Well, it's the side shield. They're all tested, friction tested.
Okay.
Because essentially the way
by friction we mean rubbing.
Yes, exactly. Those friction can be in several forms. It's almost like removing a coating. It's either going to be machine polishing, etching, or sanding.
Okay.
So as you more likely will recall, they'll tunnel washes.
Yes.
They tunnel wash all the cars to see which is brush washing on the car, and that is your friction. And Nanolex will say it's scientifically proven that they will last for 30 washes on something like Side Shield or 30,000 kilometres, and that's the minimum it will last. If they treat it properly, then they'll last longer. But that's what we can categorically say. That's what.
And that's good. I know Florian has a deal with a local tunnel wash manufacturer. I think.
Something like Imo or something like that.
Yeah, down in Saarbrücken, and so they've actually done some testing with that. So SI Shield, and do you know any of these prices yet, or are you still learning them?
Yes, it depends who you buy from, but you can buy bundle packs, you can buy the bottles on their own. If you're going to buy a bundle pack, that's the best way because you'll get all your panel wipes in there, all the application wise. So you're looking around about £60 for small. No, that's right.
And then you have two more here. So what we have here is SI Shield just in a smaller bottle. So that was a well played.
That should have been SI3D, but that's fine. Yes.
Well, we've got SI3D BC, which is base coat. Isn't it?
Yes.
So the base coat, basically, a lot of the longer lasting coatings have got their kind of two formulas. So you've got I believe, is it a soft underbelly and then a hard one on top?
Anorganic and organic.
Ooh. Okay.
So one is your hardness and one is your hydrophobic shine ability.
Gotcha.
So which is why I wanted the two there and slightly got the bottles mixed up. So if
you're not doing the pick pack, are you, for Nanolex in the UK?
No, luckily no. That's someone else. Nanolex have the accredited ones. They have a coating which does the pair together, which is accreditation wise.
Yes.
So it's a quicker kind of scenario for the professional. They get the job done.
As in quicker curing, and the benefit of that from professionals, obviously the cars go out. I imagine quicker curing.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's the base coat is here. This is the hardness. You can put base coat on, and sometimes in other brands I've seen them criticised for not showing any hydrophobicity. Well, that's not what that product is. It's a hardness. It's giving you the protection against the marring and so on.
Well, again, this boils back, we were talking with Rob Earle of G-Technic about the whole hydrophobicity thing and how people demand beads, but actually, from a practical point of view, sometimes hydrophilia, which I know sounds a bit dirty, but it's legitimate, is actually more preferable. speak for yourself. And so the idea of having something that is dedicated to hardness is always going to be better rather than having something that's trying to compromise between the two, jack of all and king of one, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that is all about the hardness that goes underneath. And then on top, and again, just continuing that analogy with G-Tech, is they've got the EXO, which can go on top, and I think they've got some other two-part coatings, same with IGL and the rest. And those top ones, they are semi-sacrificial. And they add hydrophobicity, so that gets you beading, and so you get the best of both worlds, but you need two products to put on top.
And this is one of the problems that we have when people say that coatings have failed. A lot of time they haven't. But the point of base coat is that it's a 12-hour curing before you can put a top coat on.
Mm-hmm.
So the HD is something which does the same thing, does both together, the base coat and your top hydrophobicity in one go, which is why it's accredited. But you can still do this and buy this off the shelf. If you've got your car prepared it properly, there's no reason why you can't put a base coat on and then put either SI Shield on there or SI 3D.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're both standout products on their own, but if you wanted the ultimate hardness and the finish of an HD, you can do the pair of them, but it is time consuming.
But then at the end of the day, for the enthusiast, why are they washing the car? They want a shiny car, they want an excuse not to look after the children or the dogs or whatever it might be. Time is that's the pleasure of it, isn't it? Is you're supposed to be enjoying yourself in your shed, wiping your thingamajiggles over your Allegro or whatever it is.
The words of an experienced man, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We're all the same, pretty much. Yeah. Yes, it's something which anyone can do.
Yes.
Within reason, and that's why the products are there off the shelf to buy. With understanding, there's no reason why you can't. We try and you have to research it for sure. There's no don't get it, slop it on, whatever. Even with Optimizer, you can't just go and do that. You have to make sure you know what you're doing.
Well, that's the point of our next step of the video, isn't it?
Yes.
So before we turn to the lovely Mark IV Golf, I didn't think I'd ever say that in my whole life. Before we turn to the lovely Mark IV Golf, we are going to just briefly discuss the prep that you need to do.
Yes.
Because I think prep is important. Prep is, in fact, is more important, in my opinion, than just about anything else.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of people who are, they do a coating and they think, oh, I'll just give the car a wash. But you need to give the car more than a wash to make sure that you've actually got it looking good and you've got it decontaminated and that the coating will bond rather.
Exactly, yeah.
In terms of wash, so we won't bore you with pre-wash and the main wash, but the decontamination I think is key. So the first step before we do any machine polishing or any coating or anything like that would be decontamination.
Yes.
I tend to break that into 3 steps. I don't know if are you a 3-step man?
Well, you're saying 3, and I've got 3 in my head, so it might well be the same 3. You know,
I hope so. Well, you show me yours and I'll show you mine.
Well, I was going to say the other way around, to be honest.
Okay, well, what I tend to do is you're looking at 3 stages. So you've got tar, which is hydrocarbons, and tar are normally large objects. So what I tend to do is I'd approach them first, because when they come off, there could be even contamination underneath them.
Yes.
Then you have the smallest of them, which is fallout, and fallout can be very little specks. Mm-hmm. And again, you remove that strange enough with a fallout remover, and essentially you're changing the Fe3, which is how the iron is kind of bonded into Fe2 into Fe3, which is then water soluble. It's fun. Nobody ever invites me out to dinner again. But anyway, the final thing is the bonded contaminants, which is kind of tree sap. What else could bonded contaminant? I'm thinking clay bar stuff here.
Yeah, you can get fallout from industrial.
You can get fallout, yes, from breakdust and fallout. But I'm talking about the third step.
Yeah, but I mean, industrial fallout, you can have any contaminant stuck on there. So we're clay. I mean, polyurethane I had last week, I think, which was a nightmare. So it might be stuff that you don't even know what it is. Mm-hmm. You think you know what it is by the touch, but it could be something completely different, which the chemical's not going to be able to touch. You went through all those scenarios there of pretty much, you can argue which way you do, which way around you do it.
There is probably no right answer, just lots of opinions on it.
You just say, that's how I do it. So.
Yeah, and exactly, that's the safest way, in my opinion, X, Y, and Z. And the other thing, when it comes to touching, is if you put your hand into cling film or a plastic bag.
Yes.
Hide the fingerprints.
I know what I'm going to know, yes.
And you rub it gently over the body, and it actually exaggerates anything on the paint, doesn't it?
You can feel it, yes.
And you can hear it as well, it rustles. So a satisfying thing to do, although there's no actual reason once you know the contaminants are off, is once you've done your tar remover, your fallout removal, and your clay barring for bonded contaminants, is you can then touch your paint and it should be nice and smooth and quiet through a bag.
Just don't do it after your machine polish.
No, that's counterproductive.
Yes, marring, yes, yeah.
So then you've decontaminated the car.
Yes.
So now we want to talk about the machine polishing side.
Uh-huh.
So in the old days, you're referring to the old days because you can remember them, about how you have all the different stages in paint. So tell me, in the old days, did you have like a 10-stage machine polish?
Well, we can make it as much stage as we want, can't we? Call
Yes.
them a stage. You can argue the cows come out. But essentially, in the old days, you'd get a cutting compound which was aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people did tend to grab the aggressive compound, potentially didn't need it. But the be-all and end-all was once you use that compound, you then have to go through the stages to correct the scratch marks or the marks you put into paintwork from the aggressive grit within that compound.
Yes.
So you have to go through and cut them through and through and through and through till you get the final finish. Well, the way that compounds are going now is some of them you can pick up one compound and it will cut and finish down to almost where you need to be in one go. So you have to sort of understand your products that you're using to see what it would do and also what's inside them, and of course every single set panel wipe.
Yes.
Panel wipe every single time to make sure that all the oils that are in the compounds are come out so you can see a true reflection of what's in there afterwards. So depending on what head you're using and what products, we can elaborate on the pads. Do we go that way?
Well, should we briefly touch on pads? Because I mean, the general principle we're talking about in terms of compounds was going from an aggressive compound to a mild compound, and nowadays you get what we call diminishing compounds. They've been
Yes.
there for a while, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
They're getting dead clever. So you essentially start aggressive, and then they break themselves down, so that you've got essentially 2 in 1. And so we've changed what used to be a 3-stage to a 2-stage, and there are what we call 1-step. I never know if they're 1-step or 1-stage.
It depends what you are, a stage or a stepper.
That's a very politician sort of reply, isn't it? But yes, essentially a product that can get rid of worse defects and then still refine down to give a nice finish.
Yes.
So we've got those, and then you've also got the pads. And a lot of people forget about the pads or don't talk enough about pads, and they just talk about compounds machines. And they say, oh, I've got my new Rupes LHR 15 Mark III or my new Flex PE something or other. And they're not actually focusing on what's important, which is your pad and your compound combination.
Yes.
So in terms of pad material, talk to me about foam pads.
Foam pads, various degrees of cutting them. Obviously, the harder it is, the softer. It depends on what cut you get from the mechanical cut from the pad. So there's no reason at all why you can't pick up an aggressive compound with a soft head and get some cut in it in a safe way, especially if you're using a rotary polisher. So you're getting the cut from the machine, whilst if you're using a DA, then potentially you might want to use a more aggressive pad because you're not getting the mechanical cut from the machine.
And that's a really important point, sorry to butt in there, but the pads themselves, you think they're just a medium to hold the compound against paint. They're not. They do some abrasive work themselves.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the compound's really just there as lubricant for the abrasive within the pad.
Yes. Yeah.
And then within the pads, you've got open cell and closed cell.
Yes. Yeah.
We won't go into too much detail there, but if you want to talk about them, I'm available some evenings. Quite often manufacturers will change the density and the kind of the structure, can we call it the structure of the pad?
Yes, you get reticulated foam as well, which basically means when the pad warms up, the air passes through the pad quicker, so it keeps itself cooler for longer. So the cells are different sizes sometimes. You can tell that how hard the pad is, the differences. We mentioned some pads before that some are rock hard, that look really scary. And until you've used them, perhaps some people might not use them, they get used to them. But the one thing about foam, for me, is I don't generally use them for cutting all the time because they can generate heat. And this is potentially where the enthusiast can go when preparing their car. I can go wrong with the rotary.
Yes.
The rotary is a fantastic machine used properly, which we're going to show today is using cheaper machines, is that you can use a pair of them and the product, everything together, will cost less than buying a top-end machine on its own. And you can still do exactly the same job in a safe fashion and quicker as well. So that's what we'll touch on later on. But I like using wool personally.
Yes, you said you're a sheep man.
I am a sheep man, yes. I have Velcro gloves. Because the reason is because you like that, didn't you?
I did.
The reason is you've got a picture in your mind now.
I do.
Not a good one. But you can work wool without generating heat.
Yes.
It has you can buy different types of wool from different manufacturers. We have our own wool here, which we'll be using,
Yeah, I saw it.
and they do act differently. But essentially, you can work areas for longer because 9 times out of 10, if someone's a professional or an enthusiast has burnt through the paint, it's nothing to do with product. It's the fact that they've built up heat in an area.
It's methodology, yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah. And that's why I also like the wool, because your confidence is there. You can work it for longer and work on a period for longer, and you potentially cut out quicker without that risk.
And I think wool very much has its place. Rupes has brought out, in fact, some new wool pads recently and they've invested in it, even though a lot of people are using, for example, Maguire's microfiber system, which is another medium. And then there are some people, and you probably remember these, use denim pads for very serious sort of orange peel and stuff like that.
Yeah, they are.
It's pretty rare. If somebody's using denim...
America, you'll see them more in America, but you potentially can cause some damage. But that's the other thing in America is from my experience as well, and I do use them, you can use fully twisted wool pads as opposed to blended or short pile ones, which also give different qualities and have different downsides, and you have to understand all those. But a denim pad in the UK, I think, is
pretty rare.
Yes.
But then they do all sorts of things differently over in the water. I mean, I know you're actually a fan. I think you're a fan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Of the larger, what one would almost describe as a mop head on a machine.
Are you trying to call it a frisbee or a dustbin lid? Is that?
No. It's just a lot we're used to, quite small pads.
Yes.
And again, what they do in America and other places, you see people with these massive, great big sort of wool pads going against cars. But you were saying actually they have their place.
Being a detailer, you have to have everything. You know, you have to have the machine for small areas. Every permutation that you get with a surface, you have to try and have an answer for. Obviously, experience then gains you that way of doing things. But once you know how to do it, then
having all the tools is useful. It's like just having basically a toolbox.
Larger areas. With a 200mm pad, you need a machine polisher with torque.
Yes.
So you need a heavy machine. So it's quite hard work. But even for those people that are doing commercials, using one of those is extremely beneficial. Even doing a roof on this or something, or a large area that's completely flat is fantastic.
Yeah.
But Nanolex ones are also extremely fantastic as well as
Indeed.
But so you can go fully twisted, you can have a blended, you can have fully blended. There's all sorts, and they all have different quirks of how they do things and what effects you get from them.
Yes, yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, actually, we ought to do an article on the different types of wool pads. It's a sort of very niche article that only 1 in 100 readers will read, but they'll read it closely.
It's something which it's definitely beneficial, and the people that understand it, and I've taught a few people to do this in the past, and I even put a hashtag on there, if you know, you know. And I know someone else.
Those are a nightmare.
Well, I don't know if it was new to me. I'd never seen it before, but someone, I only did it once and I did it again. And
I thought it was a reference to meeting you down at clinic. I didn't know it was anything to do with that.
You were supposed to be quiet about that.
That's all right.
But no, it's once you know how to discover how to do that, then it's a skill which potentially you will always come back to at some point if you come in a situation arises. You just know it, that you can gain it by doing that. It's all about this time. This job is all about time.
Yes.
So and that's what it comes down to, understanding those bits.
Well, thank you very much for volunteering to write the article on the different types of wool pads. We look forward to seeing that in issue 9.
I just did, didn't I?
Yes, you did indeed. So, going back to our lovely Mark IV Golf, it still doesn't feel any better saying that. We've done the decontamination, and we've talked about the correction side.
Yes.
So now what I think would be a good idea is if we get our lazy asses out of these lovely chairs, and you've noticed these ones, and go and actually apply some coatings to this Golf and make it, put something more valuable than the car on the car.
Sure.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We're back here and we've got this lovely Mark IV Golf, and as you would have seen from lots of cut-scene footage, that Ben and Bob have been working particularly hard, and Matt's been doing a bit on this bonnet, so we've got it from really pretty shocking state to really quite a good state. And there's still the odd sort of deeper mark in there, but frankly you're not going to get those without removing the lacquer and spraying. Too much work. So it's over to you really. We are now applying the coatings, and if you want to tell folk how it's done.
Sure. What exactly is going on is you work in sections, about 30 centimetre sections each time, to make sure you don't go too far and localise all the ceramics going on. Mm-hmm. They're working the ceramic into the paintwork, into the clear coat, so it virtually all disappears. And when there's just a tiny amount left, What Bob's doing here, he's putting on the ceramic without optimizer, which is absolutely fine, you can do that. The optimizer over here with Ben, you spray onto a microfiber cloth, wiped across, and anything left over is picked up. Very easy.
So,
lubricates more.
So going back to basics, we have a foam block with a, what do you call those cloths? A kind of suede cloth. Which is looped around it, and then you're dropping on just a small, how many drips of coating?
6 or 7 drops, 7 to 8 drops on each one, depending on how far you want to work and how big sections.
So 6 or 7 drops, and then you apply that in straight lines, and you go up and down and then cross, so you cross-hatching?
Cross over, yeah. The cross-hatching is the idea of covering all the area without missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So some people like to basically cut in, as in paint and decorating, so you get the edges first and then go around the areas like that way around. Others will just do that bit last. It's entirely how you like to do it. But basically what you're doing is covering a complete area and having an even finish across the whole lot.
And so once you've gone over it once with your suede mitt, and it's got the coating on, it doesn't matter if you go over more than once, because you're overlapping on purpose to make sure that you're not missing any particular.
Absolutely,
that's the most important bit.
Yeah.
And you're putting essentially a very, very thin layer, aren't you, onto the paint.
Yep.
It's like with wax again, except with the wax, lots of people dig a huge amount in, and then they wonder why it takes so long to come off with the coating.
They're scoopers.
Scoopers. That's a new word. So again here, as you can see, actually it's more useful now we're here. We're getting quite a defined, that's probably 30-35 centimetres square, going left to right, and then I imagine at some point
you see it disappearing as it's disappeared. He's worked it in, it's disappearing on its own.
So you can see it flashing off. So that's some of the solvent splashing off and leaving the solids, so to speak, actually on the surface.
The more you work it in there, and sometimes you can get it so there's none there at all, very little at all, and that's it. And once you put that on the Nanolex, it's one coating and that's it. Because if you're putting a coating on top of a coating is designed to repel.
That I can see the
logic. Why would you put something on top of something that's trying to force it off? So it won't bond to it. So it's on there.
And in terms of here the wiping, are you finding any grab then on the actual wiping, or is it just going smooth over?
Smooth. Really, really smooth.
And can you over buff?
Not essentially. I mean, you have to bear into account that if you're any friction of any kind of contact, potentially you can mark something, which is where the optimizer comes in, because it makes more lubrication. It's in the same way as when you wash your car after it's done. You buy a premium wash soap because it gives the lubrication to stop the friction, and it's the same with optimizer. It will lessen the chances. So if you're talking about using your piano black, which is always an issue, you breathe on that and it marks, and it's a perfect product to use on there as well. And those really delicate surfaces, it creates far less drag.
And this is a brief interlude on microfibers. In the past, we've said things like what they call the curtain, the yellow microfibers, which are from Costco, dirt cheap, great for doing engine bays and general stuff, but for this sort of final touch, you want a proper, really nice quality soft one.
A specialist one.
And I can see these are Nanolex ones, given the colour, I'm guessing.
Yes, they are Nanolex ones, yes.
Brilliant. And when you're going over, in terms of drying and curing, so there's a difference with coatings. People say, oh, it's dry in an hour, but it hasn't cured necessarily. So what are the timescales that people need to think about once they've coated their car with a Nanolex product?
12 hours overnight is the best thing to do. You coat it last thing, then overnight, it's fine the next morning. It's the issues that you get if you get a surface rained on or gets moisture in it. That's the problem where you compromise, and you might have seen it before. The droplet marks of rain, once it's been rained on or coated, then you are in trouble.
So again, a lot of coatings, in fact most coatings, particularly the sort of the longer lasting ones, you need to be in a proper environment like this to do them. There are some quicker drying ones, shall we say, that can be done outside. Allegedly, but I think there's some evidence. But again, it's for these sort of long-lasting coatings. If you're indoors and you can guarantee it's going to be dry and you're not having dust and stuff.
This is coming into the composition of the actual product itself. So it's doing what it does. Now, whatever advertisers doing, then it's debatable. But if you've got a coating like you just said, that's got a hard durability or long durability, it's going to have those time periods to cure.
Yes, no, absolutely. And how long until, because again, curing even in 12 hours, there'll still probably be some chemical reactions going on after that, won't there? It's just that there's sufficient protection so that it doesn't matter if it gets wet after 12 hours.
Yes, yeah.
Because sometimes it's like with paint, for example, there are big debates as to when paint is truly dry, and people say, oh, you can't machine a car for 3 months after you painted it, but with modern paints, actually, usually not the case.
Yeah, there's all gassing debates and all
Yeah.
sorts with paints, and who truly knows what if they're actually true or not.
Well, I think part of the thing is there are so many different types of paint, so many different properties, and that people get confused, and equally is that on
And we can go into the H rating as well if you want to, which is another can of worms.
Let's not do that.
No,
But-
there might be some time on it.
It's the nature of social media and stuff is you kind of half hear something and then suddenly, because somebody else also said it, it's gospel.
Watch your Vinya Florian, that's a great example of it.
Florian's a good, it's a good
That
Mythbuster.
explains it really well.
Yeah, we've got a good one also with Craig's another Mythbuster on the car.
Craig's well, the Nick.
He's a good one. But this now is done by the looks of it.
Yes, that is it. That is it. I mean, that's two professionals doing it, but essentially that's how you do it as an enthusiast would do it, and that is your coating done. It's finished. You can, if you wanted to put an extra polymer hydrophobic seal on there, sort of sealant on top, you can do so after really 12 hours once again, and that will just give it more water behaviour, full stop. And that is pretty much across the board, which all coating firms will say, do this to boost your hydrophobic qualities, which you touched on before.
So, coffee time. So, we've had an enjoyable day here in Bedford. Thank you so much, everyone, for hosting us and for showing us ceramic coatings, and for Matt for sitting down and chatting and coping with all my abuse, and informing us about pads. And I'm really looking forward to your article on the wool pads.
Not as much as me.
So, also to Bob Turner of Head Turner's Detailing. It's been a real pleasure to meet you again, and we're going to do a little interview shortly, aren't we? And we're going to talk about what life is like as a detailer. And indeed, Sven, thank you for your sterling camera work and coating work. And we shall, I am sure, reappear on the screen sometime soon.